Okay, hello. I am Kristen Dupuy. I am Category 2 faculty with the Department of Human Performance and Sport. I teach exercise science. I am also the head of our Exercise is Medicine on Campus program. And today I'm here to talk to you about weight management and highlight some of the facts versus fiction within weight management, because there is a ton of information out there and not all of it is so good. So what today's webinar is going to look like: first, we're going to define obesity and overweight. We're going to talk about those trends in the United States and why we talk about them. You know, it's something that medical professionals focus on. We have a huge diet and fitness industry. So why is it important? Why do we talk about it so much? We're going to summarize the factors that influence weight, and cover weight management basics. So just some of the basic facts that are necessary to have a grasp on gaining or losing weight. Then comes the most interesting part. We're going to discuss myths surrounding weight management, and then the facts that exist and that we know. I'm going to provide some strategies to avoid consuming misinformation regarding weight management, because there is so much out there. We're going to learn how to decide what we want to listen to and what is not worthwhile. And then we're going to summarize best practice approaches for a healthy weight and healthy living. So overweight and obesity defined. When we are talking about overweight and obesity, we're really focused on the proportion of the body's total weight that is fat. We know that people come in different weights and sizes. We're not concerned about people that are heavy because they have a lot of muscle mass. When we talk about overweight and obesity for health's sake, we're talking about people with excessive fat mass. So we define overweight as a body weight that falls above the recommended range for good health. And oftentimes we use BMI, which I'm going to discuss in a couple slides, or the next slide. BMI, a BMI between 25 and 29.9, that is a proportion of weight to height. Usually that is the indicator that we use to put somebody in a overweight category. Obesity is the next level. It is severely overweight categorized by an excessive accumulation of body fat. Again, we're not concerned about somebody's weight per se more than when we are concerned about percentage of body fat. Again, we tend to categorize people as obese using BMI. That would be a BMI of 30 or more. So I just mentioned BMI, and BMI is a ratio of height to weight. So it's kilograms over your height in meters squared. Here is our BMI classification. It's very easy to figure out your BMI. You go online and you Google BMI calculator, you put in your information and it gives you a BMI. A BMI up under 18.5 is considered underweight. Normal range is 18.5 to 24.9. Overweight is 25 to 29.9. And then we have obese, which is greater than 30. The United States is seeing such high rates of obesity that we've actually put in subcategories of obesity that you can see here, with obese class 3 going above a BMI of 40. However, as often as we use BMI, BMI is really not a great tool to use when determining if your weight is healthy for you. There are a ton of cons, and a lot of it comes from its very origins. BMI was created by a mathematician in Belgium who had no health background. What he did was he created this equation to help the government decide their allocation of resources. And this was a long, long time ago. Some of the major concerns with BMI is it doesn't incorporate anything. So age, sex, body composition does not factor into calculations at all. It only looks at your weight and your height. So a lot of people that are very healthy and just have maybe a higher amount of muscle mass could come in at overweight or obese, which would indicate a poor health outcome. On the flip side, we could have somebody, especially older populations, who have lost a lot of muscle mass, they have a lot of fat mass, fat per unit of size weighs less than muscle. So we might have somebody who is light, but it doesn't mean they're healthier because they could have relatively high fat mass compared to muscle mass. So when I tell people about BMI, I usually say, don't take it personally. Don't use it for yourself. BMI is really best for research on a grand scale. So for example, an epidemiologist looking at trends in weight in the United States over the past 20 years. It's really not great for individual use. Although your doctor will bring it up, it's everywhere. So other ways to define obesity or to measure body fat percentage. We have skin fold testing, which is where we use a pair of calipers and measure the thickness of your skin at different parts of your body. We use different equations to determine your body fat percentage. We use waist to hip ratio. That's where we compare the circumference of your waist to the circumference of your hips. What we are looking for is a waist that is smaller than your hips. Where your fat is accumulated on your body does play a role in determining your health risks. So, unfortunately, it's usually due to genetics and sex that determines where our fat mass goes, but gynecoid obesity, which we tend to see in females, is body fat that accumulates around the hips, and that is considered healthier or lower risk than android obesity. Android obesity is obesity where we see a lot of accumulation of fat in the stomach. That increases risk for cardiovascular disease due to release of hormones, stress on blood vessels and organs in that area. So where you carry your fat matters. We have hydrostatic weighing. Hydrostatic weighing, we weigh you on land and we weigh you in water, and the difference in land mass versus water mass tells us how much body fat you have. Of course, hydrostatic weighing is not super fun because you have to get in the water and completely submerged. We also have bod pods, which is a very similar idea, but instead of looking at water displacement, it looks at air displacement. Also not as fun because you have to get down into a bathing suit and get into a very small area, which brings me to BIA and our Sika body scanner. BIA stands for bioelectrical impedance analysis, and what it does is it sends a very weak current through your body. We know that water is a conductor of electricity, and muscle has water in it and fat does not. So we measure the speed of the current. The more muscle you have, the more water you're going to have in your body, the faster that current is going to move, versus the more fat you have in your body, there's going to be less water and it's going to move more slowly. What we have are one of our newest pieces of equipment in the Department of Human Performance and Sport that we love to use for exercise medicine is our Sika body scanner. This is a form of BIA. BIA is great. It's very easy. The test is about 20 seconds maximum. It is painless, so you don't feel a thing, and it's very accurate. Our Sika body scanner is medical grade. So it's top of the line. It not only gives you your body fat percentage, but it also looks at the amount of muscle mass that you have in your body, including breaking it down by limb, which is interesting and fun. When it comes to defining overweight or obesity by body fat percentage, it's a little bit more difficult because different organizations give different values. If I were to summarize what the different organizations said, the general range for females for healthy body fat percentage is 20 to 30%. For males, it's 10 to 20%. As you get older, that range widens up and they accept higher percentages of body fat as healthy. So, why do we care? Why are we talking about weight management? Why does our doctor weigh us every time we go into the office? And Why we do this is because of the prevalence of obesity in the United States. As of 2018, which is our latest data, 42.4% of Americans are considered obese, and that's using the BMI measure. But 42% of Americans are obese, which is a very high level and has increased dramatically in the past 30 years or so. Here is an obesity map of the United States. The darker the color, the higher the rate of obesity. You can see Colorado. Colorado is an outlier, definitely, with our lower rates of obesity. But even in Colorado, obesity rates have increased dramatically over the past 30 years or so. If you look at this obesity map, you'll notice a couple of things. Obesity is higher in areas where poverty is higher. There is a correlation between weight and poverty. But that's a whole different lecture for another day. That's my master's in public health speaking. You also see higher levels of obesity where weather is not nice. I am born and raised in Michigan, and you can see that Michigan is one of the highest ranked areas for obesity. And I can tell you that Michigan has some very poor areas, but Michigan also has some pretty terrible weather. And in the winter, we like to snuggle down and get some comfort food versus Colorado. Here, we have a great, huge health system that our health systems have a lot of money. We do really well in that aspect. And we also have beautiful weather. We have a culture of physical activity here that I think has served the state of Colorado very well. There's lots of factors influencing weight. It doesn't come down to just what you're eating or how much you're exercising. One factor that influences weight is race or ethnicity. African Americans, followed by Hispanic, Latinx, and then Caucasians are at highest risk for overweight or obesity. Asian Americans are at lower weights. That is due to genetic factors and cultural factors and socioeconomic factors. So even just race or ethnicity is very complicated. Age. As you get older, the normal a normal part of aging is losing muscle mass. So as you get older, you're more likely to accumulate excessive fat mass. We also see a decrease in physical activity in people as they get older. Sex. Obesity is more common in Black or Hispanic women than men. And then also we talked about the distribution of fat and how that plays a role in our health risks. And that is determined by sex hormones. So estrogen helps or encourages accumulation of fat in the hips, which is lower risk for poor health outcomes like cardiovascular disease. Of course, eating and exercise habits do play a role. People that have excessive body weight do tend to exercise less than their normal weight counterparts. I mentioned socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status is huge. There is a direct correlation between weight and income. Family habits and culture, which I also mentioned before, and then medications and health issues. There's lots of medications out there that can cause weight gain or weight loss, and then health issues like thyroid issues or PCOS, especially things that relate to hormones, can cause weight gain or weight loss. So with so many factors playing a role into what we weigh, it can be hard to address all these factors and sometimes get to the weight that we want to be. More factors influencing weight, especially to explain the large increase that we've seen in obesity rates in the United States. They have really just increased dramatically since the 70s. More sedentary work and leisure activities. So we're spending more and more time working at desks with technology, video games, and social media exist, which usually lead to us sitting down and spending more time being sedentary. The United States, we are a individual transportation nation. In European countries, they are much more active. They tend to use more active ways of transportation to get to work, like biking or walking versus in the United States where we tend to use more cars and buses. Fewer daily gym classes for students. We know that that has been an issue in the United States with the cutting of programs, including physical activity classes. Not only is that removing time for kids to be physically active during the day, but we're also limiting the ability for kids to become actively literate, and we are not teaching them the habits that they need to be physically active and healthy eating for life. More meals eaten outside the home. We are a nation that works fast and a lot. So we're eating outside the home, we're eating fast food. Those are problematic because they have huge portion sizes, so people are often over consuming. They are made to taste good and not necessarily to be health focused. So a lot of the foods that we eat out of the home are higher calorie versions of what we would eat at home. And then of course, soft drinks and convenience foods, lots of added sugars that make over consuming calories a lot more common, which leads to excessive weight gain. So why do we care? And what's important to note here is when we talk about weight management, we don't want to talk about weight management for aesthetics. What we really care about is health. And there is a correlation between excessive weight gain or excessive fat accumulation and poor health outcomes. And that's the only thing that we're concerned about. We do see an increase in risk of health conditions like hypertension, dyslipidemia, which is high cholesterol, which can lead to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. Most people develop type 2 diabetes from excessive weight gain, stroke, osteoarthritis. Excessive weight can be hard on the joints, sleep apnea. We see a correlation between obesity and cancer. And low quality of life. If somebody has an issue or struggles to move or to fit in seats or to navigate their world because of their weight, that decreases quality of life. Of course, that goes without saying with all the weight discrimination and fat phobia that we experience in the United States, that lowers quality of life as well. People feeling unsatisfied with their bodies, feeling judged by society, and feeling like the world isn't made for them. So, with this lecture, I'm focusing on weight loss because obesity is so prevalent in the United States. We have way more people that are overweight and obese than we have people that are underweight. So I'm going to talk about the basics of weight loss. Weight loss is due to a calorie deficit. And what that means is the calories we are consuming are less than the calories that we are expending. So if I eat 2,000 calories a day, but I am burning 2,500 calories a day, that puts me in a 500 calorie a day caloric deficit. In order to lose 1 pound of fat, a person has to be in a caloric deficit of 3,500 calories. If you want to do the math, if I put myself, again, I eat 2,000 kilocalories, I burn 2,500 kilocalories, I lose 1 pound of fat per week, and that's because 500 times 7 is 3,500. When it comes to sustainable weight loss, research has shown that 1 to 2 pounds per week is the max recommended rate. So that's a caloric deficit of 500 to 1,000 calories a day, which is a lot and can be hard to achieve. So it's important to note that weight loss should be slow because you should be making small, sustainable changes. The largest caloric deficit will come from diet, but exercise helps. And exercise helps because it does help you burn additional calories. It also helps you maintain muscle mass. When you lose weight, your body loses fat mass and muscle mass, but by continuing to stay active, we can minimize the amount of muscle mass that we lose because we don't want to lose that. Having muscle is great for us, and focus more on losing fat mass. So we just went over the basics, and the basics look pretty easy, right? But if it was easy, we probably would not have the diet industry that we have now. It is worth billions in the United States. Between exercise and dieting, it is a huge industry and is only getting bigger. And part of that is because weight loss is complicated. It often does not go the way people expect it to go, so they start looking at outside sources. And unfortunately, looking to outside sources can lead us to bad information. So here's the fun part of the lecture, our fact versus fiction. So these are common myths that are spread in the diet world. And one of these myths is you can out-exercise a bad diet to reach a healthy weight and lifestyle. People think, you know, if I exercise, I can eat whatever I want. And we know that that is not true. Exercise can be a great tool to maintain weight, but usually weight loss is going to come from diet changes. Also, even if you do exercise enough to balance out the calories of foods that you're eating, you can't have one without the other. You cannot be healthy without proper nutrition and adequate exercise. If you are not getting your nutrients in and you are over consuming saturated fats, sodium, added sugars, you're not going to have the same optimized health as if you have both. So you need healthy eating, you need regular physical activity to maintain a healthy weight or maintain a weight that's healthy for you. This is a big one right now, is keto, intermittent fasting, or whatever diet is superior. There's a lot of diets out there right now. I think the two most popular ones are keto and intermittent fasting. But the fact is, no diet is superior. They all come with limitations. Keto is a very interesting diet. It is the elimination of carbs from the diet. This was initially created to help people with epilepsy because it removes glucose from your body, which reduces the activity of your brain. What's interesting is people have taken this diet that was made for epilepsy and they now use it for weight loss. What research has found is that it can work in the short term. People that go into ketosis or go on a keto diet lose weight short term. They tend to be successful in that, but long-term effects we have very little research on. We don't know if it's sustainable. We don't know if it's healthy to be on keto for long term, but we can assume that it's not because you're eliminating major food groups. We don't know if the weight loss stays off long term. Most of our studies are very small cohorts and are short-term studies. There are some health risks in keto, including kidney stones, vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Again, you're eliminating carbohydrates, which eliminates a lot of food groups. So when you eliminate food groups, you're no longer eating a balanced diet. Intermittent fasting is also a very popular diet right now. Intermittent fasting has very minimal research. Long-term effects are not known. It's not well researched. Intermittent fasting works better for some than others. It tends to work better for males than females. Females, their bodies tend to not respond well to long windows without food. Another issue with intermittent fasting is it can be triggering for people who've had history with disordered eating. So anybody who has a history of problems with restricting food, it's not safe or healthy for. And it can be difficult to maintain. For intermittent fasting, people pick periods of windows where they eat and where they don't eat. And that can be divided up into a lot of different ways. Beyonce is famous for doing the 5 and 2, where she ate for 5 days and fasted for 2 days. You can break it down into days. Some people do an 8-hour eating window followed by a 16-hour fast. If your eating window does not match up with when your friends or family are eating, that can be difficult to maintain. It also requires you to spend time being hungry, and hunger can be very difficult for people. We also, again, don't know the long-term effects of intermittent fasting on metabolism. So it can work for some people, but it doesn't necessarily work best for everybody. When it comes down to it, dietitians will tell you that diet really is a 4-letter word. What they're looking for is sustainable lifestyle changes that focus on healthy eating in moderation. So no severe restrictions, no elimination of food from diets or food from your diet. Just eating in balance and eating in moderation. I am not a dietitian. This is the message that I forward to you. Fact versus fiction. Fiction, once the weight is off, I can go back to living the way I did before, and that is not true. One of the most depressing facts about weight loss is that weight loss is very, very difficult to maintain. The Cleveland Clinic posted an article which estimates of up to 80 to 95% of dieters gain back the weight that they've lost within, I think, a course of about 5 years. And what they attribute that to is the weight set point. And what the set point theory states is that our bodies have already genetically determined a weight that the body feels comfortable at. And if you go too far above or below that weight, your body will fight to regain or to lose that weight. So if you lose a bunch of weight and your set point has not been reset, your body will fight to regain that weight. And that explains also why some people who eat right, they exercise, they're in a caloric deficit, their body doesn't respond well to diets. They don't lose weight the way that we expect them to. Weight loss that is done very quickly is especially hard to maintain. And that's due to either unsustainable practices like reducing your calories so much that you're starving and you can't maintain it, due to things like keto. A ketosis diet, you should not be on for long term. When you start keto, you lose water weight very quickly because you lose the glucose stored in your body. Glucose holds water, or glycogen holds glucose and water. So you lose a lot of water weight. So when people go off ketosis, they gain that water weight back very, very quickly. And we see that with other fad diets where we eliminate food very quickly. Our body loses its glycogen storage, it loses its water storage, and then it's something that we bring back very quickly. That can lead to frustration, which leads to yo-yo dieting and weight cycling, which is not good for our bodies. It can mess with our metabolisms and make it hard to maintain a healthy weight later in life. Fact versus fiction. Carbohydrates make you fat. Fats make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. Any specific type of food is the reason for weight gain. That is not true. What research has shown us time and time again is it does come down to calories in and calories out. So reaching the right caloric balance. That does not mean that you can just eat whatever you want, because eating is more than just calories. It also, we have to figure out the nutrients that our bodies need. So we can't just eat junk food all the time if we're eating, few calories, because then our bodies are missing the nutrients that they need to function properly. We've seen in the news people who have lost weight eating McDonald's. They might have lost the weight, but A, it's not sustainable, and B, they're probably not getting the nutrients and are over consuming some of the bad stuff. So balance is key. Overeating can occur if food is healthy too. It is more difficult, but it is possible to overconsume calories if you're eating quote unquote healthy food. So there is not one type of food that causes weight gain. You should include all of the food groups in moderation for healthy eating. So those are some of the main pieces of misinformation. There's a million more out there and they keep coming up. So as new misinformation is coming up, how do we know and how do we work to avoid falling into misinformation? Like misinformation by our good friend, Dr. Oz, who might be my arch nemesis. So avoid too good to be true claims. Remember, realistic sustainable weight loss is going to be 1 to 2 pounds max per week. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If there was a secret to weight loss out there, we would have made it public and would be making a lot of money off it, and we would not see the rates in obesity that we do now. Avoid diets that completely eliminate any food group. That is a big red flag. If something eliminates a food group entirely or demonizes anything, everything in moderation. Look for reputable sources, peer-reviewed research. Dietitians are always going to be the best source of information for healthy eating. Medical doctors are okay. Dietitians are better, because our dear friend Dr. Oz here is still technically a medical doctor, and we know that he promotes diet pills and tells people not to eat carbs and comes up with all sorts of fanciful information that is in no way set in fact. Avoid products that use celebrity endorsements. It's usually means they are out for money and not for results. New discoveries usually aren't true. We aren't discovering a ton of huge new things in the world of nutrition and weight management. And avoid diet pills. Diet pills are dangerous. They can have a lot of health consequences and they do not work. Usually they are a diuretic, which means you lose water weight, which is not true weight loss. So what can we conclude from this short lecture? We could talk about weight management for forever, and one of the reasons why is because it is so complicated. There are so many different factors that contribute to weight loss or weight gain. Because there's so many different factors, weight loss, weight gain, it is complicated and it can be difficult to achieve and it can be difficult to maintain. When in doubt, refer to a dietitian for healthy eating strategies. Nutritionists are not dietitians. Medical doctors are not dietitians. Dietitians are always going to be your best source for nutrition information. Refer to exercise professionals, including the faculty and students in our human performance and sports department for healthy exercising strategies, just like dietitians. Personal trainers are not dietitians, dietitians are not personal trainers, and you need both for healthy living. And focus on health over the scale. And this is, I have worked as a personal trainer for 8 to 10 years now. And what I tell people is that weight loss is not guaranteed. Your body may be going through a medical condition, you could be working against your set point. It's not going to be guaranteed. If you eat right and exercise, you can't guarantee a skinny frame. You may not just may not be built that way. But if you eat in moderation, healthy, balanced foods, and you exercise regularly, you're going to feel good. And when you feel good, the weight on the scale matters way less. So that's a body neutral approach where you're focusing on your health over the number on the scale. And through all my years of experience, that is what is most successful and tends to keep people happiest. Gaining and losing weight can be an emotional roller coaster, but pursuing a healthy life is always a win. We here with Exercise is Medicine on campus are focused on living a healthy lifestyle and a lifestyle in balance. So everything in moderation and staying active in a positive way. So stay tuned for more Exercise is Medicine on campus events. I will be continuing to send out emails. Please make sure to reach out if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I would love to hear if you have any ideas for things that you would like to learn more about. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.